All right.
Okay. It's time for another story.
Yeah, you better tell a story.
Okay. So.
Shut up and tell a story, Aaron.
All right. So Fado. Con Cade the Cock was the king, or Con of the 100 battles. You see, he won so many battles, he fought furiously. He was a king of all Ireland and he ruled brilliantly with strength. And he brought the factions that were scattered and broken together under one banner. A hard task for many, and many had lost to his armies, but he had rallied the tribes from all over the country. And he had for himself a great ancient oak tree, which he was crowned under. Con of the 100 battles might have fought many more than that, but at this stage, he was entering into his older age. His hair was now going grey. His beloved wife, still by his side, had borne him 2 sons, who he loved dearly, one slightly more than the other. Connla, his eldest, red-haired and regal from the moment he was born, pale, bright-eyed, and he had a kingly way about him ever since he was young. Art, his younger brother, was always one step slower, one turn of phrase less smart. He wasn't as quick or as bright, and, well, the light seemed to shine from Connla's eyes. And so Con was always in adoration with his eldest born, the one who would one day get a chance for claiming the kingship. And Con wished for this to be true, for all of the battles he fought to have a purpose, so that Ireland would be free of peace for a while, or free in peace for a while.
We demand freedom from peace.
Those turns of phrases was often why he growled at Art, because he said that kind of shit all the time. He mixed up his words, very confusing for a storyteller. He wasn't going to get anywhere. It's a terrible trait. And
I think it's a younger brother thing.
I think it must be a younger brother thing. You just get spoon-fed too easily, you know.
Yeah.
What's going on? So, during the fire festivals, the quarterly times of year, Con would bring his children and a small retinue up to the hills, the sacred hills. He'd go to Clogha at Samhain. He'd go to Ishnach for Bealtaine, and he'd climb the many hills across Ireland for, well, Imbolc just passed, and Lunasa, they'd play the games to celebrate Taltu. These quarterly ways entering into each season on the cusp, on the edge, on the brink, but not right in them. Just like spring is, because apparently it was spring for a month, but it doesn't really feel like that most of the time. So, on this particular day, they were climbing the hill of Ishna to celebrate Bealtaine coming in, the beginning of summer. And they were celebrating this by climbing up to the top of the hill and looking across the 4 corners of Ireland. But as Con was walking, he noticed his son, Connla, drift off on the way. And he stood gawking in one of those twisted, strange trees, Unsciacha, the hawthorn trees, the fairy trees. And there he was, began to speak and whisper and laugh. And Con turned to his druids and wondered what was going on. And the druids gathered around and began to incant a spell. And they had the vision of the other world placed on their eyes. And then they saw a woman of the sheep. Now, Connla was utterly fascinated. He was looking through the veil at this thin time of year, because these festivals mark the thinness between worlds, when those of the other crowd can slip from that other world into our own and simply cause mischief or catch an wandering eye. A woman of the she with long flowing hair, pale skin, emerald eyes, stood talking to Connla, who was fascinated. He had never seen someone with the beauty of the other world. His heart was beating in his chest. Everything he asked her, she answered with honey words that seemed to flow all around him. But suddenly his father's call tried to call him back, but he didn't want to. He wanted to follow this woman through the veil. And suddenly he heard the calls of druids calling up a magic and a brewing, and something then was washed over him as if a bucket of water was thrown, and he came out of a reverie and couldn't see the woman anymore. The druids had cast the spell to pull him back to stay in this world. But he could still hear her laughter, and he could still hear her calling to him. Come away with me to the other world. Come spend time on Tir Changara. And so he heard these words, and he looked down and saw a golden apple on the ground she had left for him. Noticing his father beckoning him towards the top of the hill, he grabbed the golden apple and placed it in his cloak, not mentioning it to anyone. And he walked forwards. His father questioned him sternly, wondering what he'd seen. He brushed it off, Connla, saying, strange fairy woman, but aren't they all strange, really? Whether they're fairies or not. Took a second, but I got there.
Yeah.
Okay. Still paying attention. Okay, we're good. Now, Connla seemed to get away with this one, and his father, Con, wrapped his arm around him and said, as long as you're next to me, Ireland will forever be free and in good hands. Free from peace. Say it with me, Con. Free from peace. Wait, no, wait, hang on. Okay. Now, as they celebrated Beotana and the coming of the summer, the fire was lit, the stories were told, the music went on all night. As the sun became bright, they went on their way back to Tara, the seat of the king. And for a few days, things were, well, everyone was a bit hungover, so it was fine. But after about a week, Con began to realize that Connla wasn't coming back to his usual way. And he wasn't eating, and the feasts that were had, he wasn't presenting himself very well. He simply wasn't taking part the way he always had been. Unknowns to him, he had been eating the golden apple. And when tasting the fruit of the other world, everything else tastes bitter and like ash in your mouth. And so Connla couldn't turn his stomach to any of the fine choice meats that were made, or the drinks. Even mead itself seemed bitter, not sweet. All he wanted was to taste the juice of that golden apple. And when he did, he could hear the words of the fairy woman come back to him, speaking sweetly of the many-coloured lands, of the fruit and the feasts, of the 3 times 50 islands that speckle the horizon like cream whipped off the top of a cake, landed across the table. You'd see so many of them there, all underneath the dipping sun on the horizon. And all Connla wanted to do was go off to the other world. And eventually he spoke to the druids, asking for advice on which way one might go if they were to maybe run away to the other world. Now he was told never to consider such a thing. All of Ireland's responsibility would one day be on his shoulders. He had big shoes to fill. Clearly that sounded like shy crack compared to being in the other world, as this woman's voice still came towards him saying, fuck that, come away and have the crack. Do you want to be king or do you want to ride me instead? Come on to fuck, like. He really couldn't argue with that, so not 3 months went by after the midsummer and the sun so high in the sky as it began to dip down low, and the next great festival was had, the games in Taltu. and the Talchin games were being played, and the tribes were gathered to exchange gifts and hospitality by housing those that came from far and wide. Games of Fitchel, the great game before chess. We invented it. We came up with it first. It's better than chess. It's called Fitchel. Now, and many other games, much better than egg and spoon race. Fucking hurling, you know that? God, proper ball. And of course, you could be wed for a day and a year and a day rather, and just be hand fasted, and then you could come back the following year and say, "Fuck that was a bad idea. Will we wash hands?
Yeah.
Grand, good luck." The way marriage should be, probably. Just saying.
That was what our mother always said.
Yeah.
Try someone out for a year before you marry them.
I mean, it's good advice.
She didn't know it. Did
It was just common sense.
Yeah.
So, as they were preparing to go to the games, Con turned to his sons and only saw Art, the younger. Art was saying something of probable importance, but he wasn't listening to his son, looking for the red hair of his eldest son, looking beyond everyone who was talking to him. But there were so many messages, so many people calling him to talk of the games, what was going on, what he had to do. And so he said he'd surely see Connla soon. And the games went on, and no sign of his red hair were there that day. And when he came back to Tara as the sun dipped low, he found no trace of his son Connla. And as the days went by, and the days turned into months, and even years, he heard nothing, except every Beoutana, when he went back to Ishnag, he heard what he was sure was the laughter of a fairy woman that had stolen his child Connla away to the other world, never to be seen again. Right, so I told you they're a bit tragic.
Yeah, we didn't say they were going to be happy love stories, did we?
No.
I don't think we did.